What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Casual Big Ten Podcast. Today is Friday, July 21st, 2023. Hope you guys have enjoyed all the episodes. We're at the end of week 2 now. Man, it feels like it's going fast. On today's show, I'm joined by Jake Maier. He is a contributor for Badger Notes. He's on Twitter at Jake J. Maier. He's making his podcasting debut today. So excited to have Jake on the show. He did a great job. I love talking to Jake, man. It was really fun to just sit back and, chop it up over some Wisconsin football. Man, I think they're going to be pretty good this year. I'm excited. After I was done talking to Jake, I was like, I think I'm more excited about Wisconsin than I've ever been. Hope you guys enjoyed this interview with Jake Maier. All right, joining us now is Jake Maier. He is a contributor I think he's just a contributor. He might have just created the whole thing for Badger Notes. We're here to talk to him about all that, and we're going to preview the 2023 Wisconsin Badger season. First of all, Jake, thank you so much for coming on. It's such a pleasure to talk to you about football and just get ready for the season. I'm so excited.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, man. I'm really looking forward to chopping up some Badger football.
All right, so let's talk about Badger Notes before we get started then. How did that come about? How did you start to contribute for them? And did you start the whole thing, or how did that get going?
Yeah, so Badger Notes kind of started before the 2022 season in August of last year. The site owner, Dylan Graff, had reached out to me. I had shown some interest in writing for another Badger site that he was writing for at the time. I was taking a little bit of a break. I previously wrote about the Milwaukee Bucks, but I took a little bit of a break. Dylan reached out to me, asked if I would like to join this little startup that he was doing. And I couldn't say no. It was a perfect opportunity.
It's a great looking website. I was on it last night, kind of doing some research for this. I got it pulled up on the screen right now. It looks awesome. So for anybody who's a Wisconsin fan, it's not just football stuff. It's all sorts of different sports on there. So you guys can go check that out and follow that. How often are you contributing to the website? Is it something you do daily, or is it just like whenever you kind of feel like it?
Yeah, so I typically post about 3 to 4 articles per week if I can help it. I'm the managing editor, so I kind of help out with all of our other staff writers, just do, day-to-day editing needs, as well as search engine tweaking, things like that.
Awesome. And so one last question about that then. Why you said you wrote about the Bucks for a while. Why Wisconsin? Did you go there, or what's your connection with the school?
Yeah, so my connection, I've been watching the Badgers for, pretty much my whole life. I've been born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin, so Wisconsin guy through and through. My fandom really didn't start until I was or I guess I should say my fandom really kicked off when I was about 9 or 10 years old when J.J. Watt was on the team.
Oh, yeah.
He's still my favorite Badger of all time, and those are, despite the Rose Bowl loss in 2011, that was a little bit tough. That's probably the most memorable loss for me. But no, the Badgers, I've seen them all my life, been watching them all my life. And, I decided I really wanted to delve into the world of Badger football, basketball, everything that comes with it.
That's awesome, man. So let's jump into this then. This offseason, I've been following everything that I possibly can with all the other teams with Wisconsin. Besides the head coaching change, to me, it wasn't like a crazy offseason, but with a head coaching change, a lot of changes come with that. So obviously, I think that from what I've gathered, fans are very excited. Even people that aren't Wisconsin fans are very excited about Luke Fickell. How excited are you? And then also, what big changes can we expect for people that aren't following Wisconsin as close as you are? What can we expect from the team that's going to look differently than it did last year?
Yeah, so first of all, I am over the moon about Luke Fickell. This is a guy who is a proven winner and a proven talent developer. When you look at his time at Cincinnati, especially that year that he went to the playoffs with them, they sent, I think it was 8 guys to the league after that season. So this is a guy who can coach up talent, and he's already really changing the culture in Madison. It's very apparent. You can already tell. As I would say, for the biggest changes, the most obvious would definitely be the addition of Phil Longo. You're bringing in a style of offense in the air raid that you have just never seen in Madison.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Wisconsin has prided itself on controlling the run game, and it will still happen in that air raid scheme. But I think when you bring in a guy like Phil Longo, who is a proven offensive coordinator and just is also a guy who can really coach up talent and just get the best out of all of his players. I mean, there's just so much to be excited about with this new staff. As I said, I'm personally over the moon, and I know a ton of Badger fans who are feeling the same way that I am.
I'm not super familiar with him and his background. The name of the show is Casual Big Ten. Where's he come from?
Phil Longo is coming from North Carolina.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so he was the offensive coordinator there with Drake May, and it's escaping me. Is it Sam Howell? I think.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
escaping me. Yes, Sam Howell. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that's super exciting. Like you said, matching him up with that run game that you guys have always had. You got the running back coming back. We'll talk about him in just a second.
Yeah.
Um, Off-season related, I hadn't heard much other than obviously Tanner Mordecai was the big name that came into Wisconsin. Other than that, I've been in and out trying to keep track of everything with the transfer portal with all these teams. It's ridiculous to try to follow it all. Who's a name that, besides him, we can kind of circle and say this is a guy that's coming in from wherever and he's going to have an impact on the Badgers this year?
Yeah, for me, it's C.J. Williams, who's coming from USC. I mean, this is a guy who is one of the top receivers in his class coming out of high school. Never really got the chance at USC to really prove what he has, but his skill set is just ridiculous. He's a crisp route runner. He has excellent hands, a fantastic catch radius, and this is a guy who's not you're not going to be enamored with his speed, but he is still a downfield threat. He is really a do-it-all wide receiver, and although he's young, I really think that he's going to be a serious contributor. Maybe not in the starting unit. I guess we're going to kind of have to see how that shakes
Yeah,
out. But no matter where, he is going to make a huge difference in the receiving core under that air raid scheme.
that's awesome. I'll look forward. I'll circle his name then and kind of keep an eye on him. Was there anybody that left that you were like, oh man, I really wish we still had this guy? Or was it kind of a thing where, Coach Fickle was able to maintain the team that he had or not that he had, but that was there last year, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, there's one guy in particular that sticks out to me, and I'm not sure if Badger fans would really agree with me fully, but I'd say it's Avion Jones. He was a young guy who I was just really enamored with his skill set. I mean, I was really high on his potential. I thought that if he had the chance, he could be a really be a difference maker on that defense. And I would say there was another one too with Isaac Garendo, who ended up
Okay.
transferring to Louisville. He was really the RB3 for us, but when he left, or I should say when he was still on the team, he was just a guy that was perfect to fill in behind Braylon Allen as well as Ches Malusi, that dynamic two-headed monster rushing attack that Wisconsin has. He was going to come in, give you serviceable snaps, but he was really looking for more playing time, and I can't blame him. He's a guy who's going to make a difference for Louisville this year.
Wow. Okay. So, couple guys leaving, couple guys coming in. The big guy that's coming in, though, I want to talk about the team this year and kind of start talking about the offense a little bit. Tanner Mordecai. I didn't watch him the last 2 years that he was at SMU. He was at Oklahoma, correct me if I'm wrong, for 3 years before that, and pretty much was on garbage time duty for Oklahoma. Didn't ever start, never had like a lot of snaps for them. But at SMU the last 2 years, and I have to read some of these because my jaw was just on the floor when I was looking at some of his stats. 7,000 yards the last 2 years, 72 touchdowns, and only 22 interceptions. And that includes a game, and I forgot. Oh, it was against Houston where he threw 9 touchdown passes and 0 interceptions, 7 in the first half. I mean, the more I read about him, and first of all, I don't remember that, but the excitement level for Badger fans with this guy coming in, not only because he's put up such great numbers the last few years, but because it's such a shift, like you were saying, from kind of the type of offense you guys have run the last, I don't know, seems like forever. How excited are you and everyone else in Wisconsin right now about this kid?
I mean, there is just so much to love about Tanner Mordecai. As you mentioned, that game against Houston was, I mean, unforgettable. Like for him, obviously, and just everyone who watched it. I watched a little bit of that game when it was happening because I saw something online. It was like, yeah, Tanner Mordecai has like 6 touchdowns right now, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So,
Right.
um, but no, Tanner Mordecai is he's such a skilled quarterback in so many ways. He's a clean passer. He's great pocket presence. He has an NFL caliber arm. I really do believe he has an NFL caliber arm, and just really good accuracy behind that power. He's also a dual threat too. I mean, he's not the kind of guy that when you think of dual threat, you think of like Lamar Jackson or whatever you think
Right.
of those dual threat quarterbacks. But he's a guy that's going to be able to get if he needs to get out of the pocket and use his feet, he can do that well. And there's just multitudes to his game, and he was just a fun player to watch when I went back and looked at some of his highlights when he was at SMU. But I think he's really going to make a difference, and especially under Phil Longo's air raid scheme. I mean, he's going to be able to reach his full potential.
Yeah, and one thing I didn't really mention when I sent over the notes to you too was just the tradition of the offensive line that's always at Wisconsin. I'm assuming that it's going to be great again this year. I didn't do any research on them, but I'm assuming putting a guy like that behind a good offensive line, and then with the next guy that we're going to talk about is just got to be really exciting. So, Braylon Allen, that's what I wanted to mention next. He's back this year. You put him with Tanner. You just mentioned some of the wide receivers and like how excited we are about that. The offensive line, the offense just like to me, it just seems really exciting with the new offensive coordinator, new head coach. Um, what is his ceiling in this offense now, though? We're kind of switching over to more passing. What can he do this year? And then a follow up to that, if I can. So just to let you go off on Braylon, I feel like there was a lot of rumors about him right when the season ended about him transferring. Were you ever worried about that, or was there any weight to that, or was he always going to be in Wisconsin?
Yeah, so first with Allen, I do think when we talk about the air raid scheme, there is something that kind of gets lost, and that is that maybe the running backs are gonna take a step back or whatever it is. I personally don't think that's the case because Braylon Allen has been running against 8+ man boxes for his entire career thus far at Wisconsin. I actually just looked it up today. He rushed for over 800 yards against 8+ man boxes last season, which was the most of any running back in the entire nation.
Yeah.
So now that he's going to be running against less packed boxes, he's going to be able to get
Mm.
up to speed. He's going to get downhill, and he's going to be a real problem once he like can break through that front line and hit that second level. Um, I think I should also mention Phil Longo has only one season had a rusher that did not surpass 1,000 yards, a running back that did not surpass 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
And I don't think Allen is going to be another player that's not going to reach 1,000 yards under Phil Longo's offense. I
Right.
mean, with the air raid scheme that's going to allow him to run against less packed boxes, and with the skill set that he already has, I think this is a season where he could probably win the Doak Walker. I don't want to go too high expectations and to say that he could be in the Heisman conversation. There's a lot of great players, but I mean, this is going to be a great season for him, and he's going to really show what his full potential is now that he's not running against those stack boxes.
Yeah. I'd never thought about that. So I was kind of thinking going into this year, and this is exactly why I love having people like you on the show to give me this insight. But I never stepped back and thought about the fact that when you open it up, he's going to have less defenders that he's going to be going against, and that's going to open up things for him too. I want to circle back on this though. I could be misremembering this, but was he going to transfer? Did you ever think he was going to transfer, or was this all just rumors and I was misreading the whole situation at the end of the year last year?
Yeah, so from everything that I heard, those transfer rumors really didn't hold any weight. There was definitely some rumors circulating, and I think it was from a lot of people on Twitter that were wanting to see a guy like him in Michigan.
Yeah, they
That's
were
at least
hopeful.
where I
That's what it
saw.
was. They were like hoping that
Abs-
he would come. I think.
Absolutely. And that was the number one place that I was hearing was, oh, Braylon Allen's going to go to Michigan. Like it's going to be a perfect fit. But they those rumors really didn't hold any weight. I mean, this is a kid who's Wisconsin through and through. Like he came from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. I never really thought that he was going to transfer, and obviously didn't end up happening. But yeah, those
Right.
rumors really didn't hold too much weight. I think it's just optimistic fans, you know.
Yeah, that I think that's where I heard most of it from too, which is interesting because they have two good running backs coming back already, so it didn't really make sense. But it felt
Right.
like I just remember there was like a 2 week span where I felt like I was on Braylon Allen watch, and I was like, "Is he really about to transfer?" And then it just disappeared into thin air, and like all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, yeah, that's not happening at all." So it was just
Right.
interesting to kind of go through that at the end of the season last year. All right, let's switch sides of the ball real quick. I'm famous for not knowing anything about any team's defense at all because I'm just it's so much easier to follow the offensive guys. Um, so for casuals out there that are listening and saying, "Who should I watch on Wisconsin's defense?" I'm a defensive guy. I want to watch someone on defense. Who should they look for this year on that side of the ball that's going to make a big impact and maybe be one of the Badgers' best players on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I think the biggest guy to watch for me personally is Muma Jongmeta. He was the second highest rated linebacker in the Big Ten last season, only behind Jack Campbell at Iowa.
Okay.
So I mean, it's pretty good company, you know.
Yeah.
Um, Let me just check. He had 95 tackles and 25 QB pressures last year. And I mean, this is anecdotal, but I swear that every single time that I checked the stat sheet, Muma was somehow involved in the play. I don't, whether it's like getting a half tap, whatever it is. I swear that he was
Yeah.
involved in every play. He just flies around the field, and he has a pretty quick burst, and he is hard hitting. Like he is a guy who's going to lay the wood. So I think he's going to be the guy to watch. He had a special year last year, and I honestly think he's could break into the national spotlight this year.
Nice. I'll keep an eye on him. Do you know what number he wears?
Oh gosh, is that
I'll
I
put you on
want to
the
say it's
spot.
in the I know, I want to say it's in the 50s. I
Okay.
want to say
54.
52, but
Okay, 52.
54.
Is it 50? I
Yeah,
don't know.
54.
I'm just guessing. I just said a
54 is
linebacker number.
well, honestly, that might be it. Yeah, man. I really wish I probably should know that, but you know.
That's all good. We'll find him. We'll find him. All right. Let's talk about the schedule. I like to give my prediction first and like kind of tell you what I think is going to happen, how you guys are going to finish, and then your job is going to be to either tell me that I'm wrong. Oh, I forgot to bring Braylon Allen's picture up. There's Braylon, everyone. All right. Here's the schedule though that I have pulled up now. You'll tell me if I'm either wrong or if I nailed this perfectly. I have Wisconsin finishing second in the West. The overall record at 9-3 this year, and I'll just go through the losses because that'll kind of be easier to talk about than me going through the whole schedule. So let's see. I have you guys losing to Washington State on the road. I have you losing to Iowa at home. And then where's my last one? Ohio State also at home. So I'd like to go through these like 4 game chunks at a time, and then you can kind of tell me how the beginning, middle, and the end of the season is going to be. You start out at home against Buffalo. You travel to Washington State, like I just said. You're back at home against Georgia Southern, and then you go to Purdue. How do you see the first 4 games of the season shaking out for the Badgers?
Yeah, so opening up against Buffalo, I mean, I think that's just going to be a blowout. I mean, you know, it's going to kind of be a bloodbath in that game,
Yeah.
and I mean, you know, that's kind of what you want. You want to start the Luke Fickle era off on the right foot, you know, and that's what you want. You want to blow out against a team that you're supposed to blow out.
I'm looking this up
Um,
right now because I actually talked about this, and now I need to know if I was right because now that I have you on, I want to make sure that I was right about this. I do feel like Buffalo was decent in the MAC last year, though, and I have it pulled up now. I think they finished second in their division, so I guess they weren't. They were 7-6. So for some reason, I felt like they were a better team last year. But yeah, I agree. I think that should be a blowout. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah, no problem. So with Washington State, I go back and forth on this game quite a bit. I think My personal prediction is this is going to be a win, but it's going to be a very, very close one, like within
Yeah.
one possession. Obviously, there was that loss last year against Washington State. That I mean, that was kind of the signal that that season wasn't going to be what we were expecting it to be.
Yeah.
Um, I would say that there is probably going to be some speed bumps in that game, but I think where Wisconsin has the edge is that Washington State lost a few of their key contributors on the defensive side of the ball. Although they are bringing back Cam Ward, their quarterback, I I'm just not really sure that their defense is going to be able to stop this new scheme that we're implementing, and hopefully Wisconsin doesn't have any hiccups in actually implementing this scheme and doing it in game. But as I said, I do think that one is going to be very, very close.
Okay. And then, like I said, you're back at home against Georgia Southern, and then on the road against Purdue to finish out those first 4 games. What do you think is going to happen there?
Georgia Southern, I think it's going to be another blowout. That one is also going to be a bloodbath. With Purdue, I have that as a win, but also a very close win. I think Purdue now has Hudson Card as their QB, so that's a great quarter, or not great, but it's a good quarterback who I think is better than Aiden O'Connell, who they had. And I think Purdue's defense is going to take a step back. They lost I believe they lost their defense. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Illinois, who lost their defensive coordinator. But I do think that Purdue
They got
is their
Illinois' defensive
defense.
coordinator as their head coach now.
Yes,
That's what you were thinking, I think. Yeah.
yep, that's right. I was trying to
You got
put
it.
those
You
two
had it right.
together. I do think Purdue's defense is going to take a step back, and I think that that's where Wisconsin is going to take advantage in that game. So I do have that as a win, but again, a very close one.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that yet. Back when I was making my picks, I think I did it like almost a month ago now when I made all my picks. I did it like right when the schedules came out, I feel like. But both those quarterbacks, SMU and then the Hudson Card, like you said, coming from Texas, I believe. So a couple of
Yep.
Texas guys playing in that game against each other. Like that's going to be a brand new look game when that game, week 4 right there, pretty early. Like a couple of
Mhm.
brand new quarterbacks. That's going to be really fun to watch. So I like that game. I'm very excited about that. When I talked about it when I did my show, just going through all the schedules, I said that was more of a toss-up game, but I gave the advantage to Wisconsin on that one. All right, so you guys starting out at 4-0, and then you go into the next part of the season after a bye week, and you have Rutgers at home, Iowa at home, then you travel to Illinois, and then back at home against Ohio State. What do you think's going to happen
Yeah,
there?
yeah. So with Rutgers, I also have Wisconsin winning there pretty handily. I mean, there just really isn't anything that Rutgers has done to really move the needle in terms of their football program. I also think just Wisconsin is coming off a bye week, so they have that benefit as well. I don't think that one's going to be particularly close. I think it's probably going to be a multiple possession win. Um, Now, you said that Iowa was a loss. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
That is also what I have. Unfortunately, I think this is just a trap game. I mean, you're going against Iowa, who now has Caden McNamara as their quarterback, so that's going to cause some trouble. I mean, their defense is always just so good. I mean, they're consistently like a top 15 defense, and although their offense has been inept in past seasons, I think Cade McNamara is going to be able to supplement that a little bit with his level of play. So I do have Wisconsin losing that one. I think it's going to be a very close game, but definitely a low scoring one for sure,
Yeah.
as they usually are.
Yeah, that's going to be a
Um,
brawl for sure.
Absolutely. With Illinois, Illinois, I have a win. I think with Illinois losing their defensive coordinator, I think that is where Wisconsin is going to be able to take advantage. They also lost Mike Brown, their running back, which is a pretty significant loss for them. There's probably going to be some midseason speed bumps for Illinois, and they have Brett Bielema as their head coach, which I won't go too much into my opinion of Brett Bielema, as he was the former Wisconsin head coach for a while, but I'm not going to go get too deep into that. But I just think Wisconsin has the advantage there, particularly, as I said, with them losing their defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Um, Now, Ohio State. Now, this is a game that you can pencil in as a loss, but I do think this is going to be closer than a lot of people are thinking. I think you have a quarterback who is unproven for Ohio State. The If Ohio State just has good quarterback play, then I mean that's enough for them because they have enough talent all over the field.
Right.
But we're really going to have to see how I believe yes Kyle McCord how he does from the beginning of the season up until that game. Wisconsin also has the benefit of it being a home game at Camp Randall, and I'm not sure if it is prime time, but it's likely going to be prime time. I think it's just going to be a must-watch game. I do think it's going to be a lot closer than people think, but I do think that that's a loss. Ohio State just has so much depth and so much talent all over the field. I mean, Wisconsin just doesn't have that up to this point.
Right. I think, man, the more I think about that now at home, it's like, man, you're kind of right. That anything could kind of happen in that game. I
Yeah.
totally agree with you about Illinois. I think they kind of overachieved last year, and they're going to take a step back this year. So you go 2-2 in the middle of the season, puts you at 6-2 overall, and then you go into the last third of the season here with those last four games, and really like probably the easiest part of the schedule in my opinion. When you look at those four games, you have at Indiana, at home against Northwestern, at home against Nebraska, and then you finish at Minnesota, which is a team that hates me right now because I picked them to finish last in the Big Ten West in my picks. So, how do you think that is there any road bumps there at all? Is there anything that you're like, man, we might lose this game, or are you kind of like me? I think you just finish out so strong this year with those last four.
Yeah, I think this is going to be, I mean, like you said, it's a very favorable stretch to end the season for sure. I mean, you have Indiana, which I don't think that game is going to be very close. Indiana has never really done anything to make me question if Wisconsin is going to, fall in that game. Really, nothing there. I think it's probably going to be a multiple possession blowout. Um, I would say with Northwestern always gives me pause as a Wisconsin fan
Hmm.
because just of the amount of times that they've given us trouble throughout the years. But I should say specifically on the road when we go to Northwestern, we play them. They just give us one hell of a time. But I think that that's going to be a pretty a win, pretty handily, I'd say. I just don't think that Northwestern is going to be able to come into Madison and knock off the Badgers. If Wisconsin was going on the road in that game, I might have a different perspective on that, but I think that that's going to be a win against Northwestern. Um, with Nebraska, I think that's also going to be a win. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Matt Rule
Mm-hmm.
and them him bringing Nebraska back to the glory days. I don't think that's going to happen in year one. I just don't see it. I think that that's going to be probably a pretty close win, but I'd say it's a win nonetheless. And with Minnesota, the axe is not staying in Minnesota for 3 years in a row. It's just not happening. I'm sorry, it's not. Obviously, I'm a Wisconsin fan, born and raised in Wisconsin. We don't like
Yeah.
Minnesota around here, and I'm trying to be as realistic as possible with this game. And I think when you look at it as they lost their running back Ibrahim,
Mm-hmm.
who was fantastic for them. They also lost Tanner Morgan, and their new quarterback had one good game last season, and it just so happened to be against Wisconsin.
Yeah.
um, I don't expect that to happen again. And like I said, I think this is a game that Luke Fickle is going to make a point of emphasis. Obviously, it's a rivalry game, so by default, it's going to be a point of emphasis. But I think he's really going to make this game a priority and get these guys ready for this game and start it off the first year on the right note by taking out Minnesota and reclaiming Paul Bunyan's axe.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on all that. Maybe, like you kind of said, when I first looked at the schedule, I was like, Northwestern, that's an easy win. But then when you look at Northwestern, they got a new quarterback too, and they can be a little bit more improved. They got A.J. Henning from Michigan, so their offense might be a little feisty, but I still think that you guys are better, and I think you finish out 4-0 as well. So that puts you at 8, and I'm sorry, that's 10-2. And depending on what Iowa does, possibly being in the Big Ten championship game after winning the West. Like I said, kind of got to see if you say that you're going to lose against Iowa, then you need them to lose a couple more games for you guys to go there. I did want to ask you while I had you on, do you like the current format that they have right now and the format that we're only going to have for one more year? Or were you excited about the announcement that they made that they're taking the divisions away and it's just going to be the two best teams in the Big Ten that go to the championship going forward starting in 2 years?
Yeah, so I go back and forth on this a little bit. What I will say that I do enjoy about it is that the schedule is kind of reevaluated in 2 year increments.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have you can really keep up with the competitive trends and everything like that, and host and schedule more exciting matchups. I mean that's what we want. We want more exciting college football to watch always. But there is just something in me that just loves how divisions are and just how they work out. And I don't know. I think the two best teams. I think you're going to be seeing a lot of the same teams on top. You're going to be seeing the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Penn State. Hopefully, Wisconsin can get into that conversation after a couple of years in building around Luke Fickle. So, like I said, this I kind of go back and forth on it. I do like how we're going to have more exciting games to watch, but there's a part of me that just enjoys how the Big Ten is currently set up.
I think that one thing that you can kind of look forward to, even though you're like kind of what you just said, you're not in the Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State area right now, but to the other point that you just made, the way that the schedule shakes out, any given year, you can miss a couple of those teams. And then you might catch somebody like, USC at home, and then you go upset like Penn State on the road, and then all of a sudden you're undefeated and you are still in the Big Ten championship. So the schedule can still work favorably for you even without the division. So it's something that I'm really looking forward to. And I know it's going to hurt some teams that have been at the bottom. They're never really going to have a chance, and that's just, they never had a chance anyway, so it didn't matter. But to me, I'm really excited about it. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to this season. Thank you so much once again for coming on. His name is Jake Maier. Jake, tell everybody where they can find you if they want to follow more Wisconsin football and other sports action online.
Yeah, so feel free to follow me on Jake or on Twitter at Jake J Meyer. I'm putting out as much content as I possibly can, and that's where all of my stories go. So if you want to check out what I'm writing, just go ahead and follow me on Twitter. Obviously, check out Badger Notes. We're really trying to build up this community, and it's been really cool seeing how much we've grown in the past 9 months now. But we're really thinking that we're going to have a special 2023 season. The football team is going to have a very special season, and I think the site's going to have a very special season. So we'd love to have you on and just check out what we're doing.
Awesome. Thanks again for coming on, and you all go follow Jake. Go check out Badger Notes. And Jake, hopefully I'll get to talk to you maybe mid-season when we're actually playing some football. We can get back together and talk about what's going on. Thanks again for coming on, man.
Absolutely, man. Let's do it.
Once again, that was Jake Maier. He's on Twitter at Jake J. Maier, Maier. Jake was awesome. I love talking Wisconsin football with Jake, man. That was such a good interview. Thank you so much for coming on. It's Friday, so that means you got a couple days off. You can, take all that information that you got this weekend, start going into the weekend, telling all your buddies everything that you learned about Big Ten football this week with those last 5 episodes that we just put out. We got 5 more. Next week, the last 4 teams. On Monday, I'm joined by Brandon Dubich. We're going to talk about Indiana, the Hoosiers. How good are they going to be this year? Hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope you've been enjoying the preview episodes. We will see you on Monday, which is in the future.
Everything